Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on November 10th, 2021 at approximately 9:35 a.m. PST. Well, took a couple of days off as far as discussing the one issue, but let's face it, the only thing happening in this world is not my writing projects. I returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to pass on a simple message to everyone in existence. And that is that working together, we can make this a better world for almost everybody. Now, clearly, much as I would like to get this message out to everybody in existence, I'm going to require your assistance. Because the only people I'm going to be able to get to are the ones that have video. However, it is my sincere hope that as you get these messages, you will pass them on to the people you personally run into. And in that way, even people that don't have access to electronics will eventually get the message. Because there is a very big issue going on right now. Society is changing. We used to talk about it going back to the way it was. And quite honestly, I hope it never does. The amount of problems that were involved before everything turned upside down were phenomenal. Right, they were absolutely disastrous, and I would just as soon they not go back there. But the second project that I'm working on is the writing of a massive saga. Okay, it will the Yldrbacian Chronicles will be in the long run 4 trilogies set up back to back, covering a total of 12 books in its entirety, to a total of about 4,800 pages. Now, currently, just because I'm curious, I've got everything set up here anyway. So, well, I was mistaken. Mind you, I'm sitting right by the computer, so it's not that hard. Right now, given 4,400, I've got just over 2,800, 28% of the pages dealt with. Just under 25% of the entire story is written. But that's spread out over 12 books. Okay. Now, the birth of the wolf pack, the reason it came out the way it did, okay, the first book that comes out is literally the 10th in the series. But I figured out it, in a lot of ways, if you look at it from the wolf pack side, it really is the first in the entire 12, because it'll go 10, 11, 12. And I found a way to reference it back to, at the end of the 12th book, there is a way that very neatly ties the whole story back and gets you back to the beginning of it, where all of it happened. But what ended up happening was the primary character, Jeremiah, okay, he's very much the individual that will quite readily try and talk his way out of things. But if he can't talk his way out of it, well, it's post-apocalyptic. Very graphic fight scenes. Okay, that if you do back him into a corner, it's probably a bad idea. But the whole group of people that make up the wolf pack itself, and like I said 2 days ago when I actually did the journey, this particular scene. Okay, this is literally of total credit to my artist in England, because the scene itself that's on the front cover was not actually written into the story. When I first approached him to do the artwork, he came up with because of the name, he came up with the idea of putting these 2 little wolves in the front end. Okay, these 2 little guys here. Now, in all fairness, and I'll see if I can figure it out, but I don't know if I've got their names. Let's just take a look here. This is where having the computer right beside me is real convenient, because what I can do is just quickly take a look. And this is, by the way, a live recording. Okay. Meaning, I go through, you get all the hiccups, all the glitches. At the end of the recording, I will go back and double check, make sure I got the date right. Okay, I'll make sure I got the date right as far as today goes, and then it gets posted as is. Okay, now what do we got here? I am not seeing what I'm looking for. I'm just scanning through it, and of course, not finding what I was looking for. Oh, look at that. And nope, we do not have it, so I cannot even right off the top of my head tell you what the name is. But I can tell you these two wolves are actually listed by name in the story. When the artist when the artist drew it, he asked if he was overstepping, and we looked at what he had drawn up, and we went, "Holy mackerel, that is convenient! Like that is really good." So we just tied it in. Okay, so anyway, then when the wolf pack gets together, right at the beginning there, it starts off with Jeremiah entering Casey's. Okay, now it is a rough and tumble bar. Okay, Casey's Bar and Grill is the backbone of where things take place in the birth of the wolf pack. And in all fairness, throughout the the latter years, the trilogy that I'm working on, you'll find Casey's is the anchor point. There are other places that are very important, not the least of which is Ground Zero Trading and Lounge, which is more of an upper class place, but it's got its own quirks. Okay, if you picture Casey's Bar and Grill as along the lines of a country bar, okay, country bar, country pub, that sort of thing. Okay, you'll get a much better idea as to the kind of people because they all take their weapons in. They are all armored. It's post-apocalyptic, so you got to live with it. When you get over and you finally get to see what Ground Zero Trading and Lounge is, it is, as it says, a lounge. Very high class, very, much more subdued atmosphere. People are a lot more self-controlled. Okay, and the nice part about it is when you take a look at Jeremiah, you'll find out he is, to say the least, a bit rough and tumble. Okay, but he is a pacifist. He will quite readily talk his way out of whatever he can. If he's pushed into a corner, well, let's just say he knows how to talk with his fists as well. So we get started with that. And Jeremiah meets a few people, and you'll start to get a feel of Casey's right off the bat. Okay, because I started off in the bar, and if you're writing something yourself, okay, if you're in the process of writing a book, write about something that you feel strongly about, something that you know. Okay, where it comes to the Yldrbacian Chronicles, well, let's face it, I've been gaming for 45 years. I've got a vague idea of what I'm doing with gaming. Okay, I'm published in 5 different genres. Okay, four of the books that I've got available are only available through me, and you'll find the list of the books and the list of contact points below this video. The Birth of the Wolfpack is actually now available through Author House, on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble. But when Jeremiah gets there, it starts off with him on his own. Okay, and him on his own, you meet another one of the characters right away. Okay, another one of the characters that comes into play right off the bat. And it's something I should say before I go any further. The characters are absolutely all of the primary characters, and many of the supporting characters are absolutely built based on characters that other people built. Okay, they are absolutely built on characters that were based on those. Okay, but where it comes to the people that I based certain characters on, those names are completely changed. They're totally different from what they were from the people that they're based on. Now, understand something very important about, especially the birth of the Wolfpack. I wrote that story as a tribute to the gamers that I was gaming with at the time. Okay, and because of that, this whole storyline holds a very, very strong emotional tie for me. The storyline was written when I was 15. And this is why I say, even if you've put your life on hold, your project on hold, especially if it comes to writing, pick up your pen, go back and look at the book that you were trying to write or the writing project. Maybe it was only a poem. I shouldn't put it that way because some of the poems that are out there are phenomenal. I remember one that was written by Robert Service. Cannot recite it, but it was written by a gentleman by the name of, I believe it was Robert Service, but it was called The Tale of Sam Mcgee. Right, which was it was a great poem. Okay, I cannot remember the way it went. But it really boiled down to a dead man who had frozen to death in the far north. Right. And in the middle of in the middle of that poem, right near the end of it actually, the guy is opening up. He opens up the fire to check on what's going on. And here's Sam sitting in the fire. And Sam looks at the guy and goes, "Would you please close the door? This is the first time since I got up north here that I'm actually warm." Now, the reality of it is, some of the poems I've written, some of the songs I've written, including in the Yldrbacian Chronicles. So when Jeremiah first comes into the bar, you get a look at the atmosphere of the bar, at the layout of the bar, and yes, I do actually include floor plans so that you can actually see what is there. Now, the neat part about it from my end is you bring Jeremiah in. He meets a character that, quite frankly, he has known for a while. So Jeremiah is in the bar, and this other character, a little bit, definitely a little on the different side, by the name of Wilhelm Schunter. Now, Wilhelm is, as the saying goes, not from around here, but you'll find out about his past later. But the two of them get together, okay, and all in all, things are happening. They sort of get things organized. So anyway, they make their connection at some point there, somewhere in the middle of all of this. And I really should go through it and figure it out, but I'm getting ahead of myself and behind myself at the same time. Of course, the reality is if you're writing multiple books all at once that are interlocked, it can get a little confusing. So when I take a look at this, and I should actually make sure I get that in the right order. Is that the right one? Yes. That is where we start with. And is that yep, that's the right one. Where the heck does, yeah, and we're looking for something that we really should have looked up beforehand. And this is what I mean by I am not what you consider, necessarily the most professional individual on the planet. I mean, let's face it. The reality is I am what I am, and the hiccups, the bumps that I run through are very much a different issue. Okay. I don't do things the way that necessarily other people are taught. Yeah, I was right. See, Wilhelm comes into the equation to start with. It's after you meet Wilhelm and Jeremiah have their little conversation that you meet the third party of what will become the Wolfpack. And that is Tanya Jan Scott. Now, Tanya has a whole lot going on around her, and you find out about some of it right off, some of it down the road. Like I said, we are dealing with characters that run all over the place. Now, the other thing that the chronicles also involve are things like the explanation as to down the road you'll find out information on how soulmates are are acquired, how you find soul family, how past lives come into the equation. Okay. You find out about different technologies, different magics. Okay. And realistically, I love the way one person put it, and I don't even remember who it was, that when you push science to its ultimate level, there is little difference between it and magic. So in these stories, and you'll find Jeremiah has his own outlook on life. He's got skills that are acquired, and understand the character himself does his own thing. Was there a lot of me put into him when I built him? Yes. Okay, but a lot of what happens in the stories, in the chronicles, I'm literally in the process of writing them, and I write down something because it just comes to me that way. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at this, going, "Did I really write that? Oh well, we'll run with it." Kind of like if you watch some of the movies that are written. Okay, things happen on set that the actual writer didn't plan on, but an actor goes and does something that's a little different, and they decide to run with it. Okay, one of the key scenes that, from what I gather, one of the key scenes that comes to mind in that situation would be in Indiana Jones and the temple and the in what was it? Indiana Jones and the search for the what the heck was it? The first one that came out anyway. Okay, he was searching for the ark. And in the one scene in Indiana Jones, it was written one way, but from what I gather, when Indiana Jones shoots the oncoming guy rushing at him with a sword, the reason for it was that Harrison Ford forgot his lines, which is why he all of a sudden shrugged his shoulders and just pulls out the gun and shoots the guy. Well, I ended up with the same situation writing a section when I was writing the first combat scene, very detailed choreography. In chapter 1, like, we are talking post-apocalyptic. So in chapter 1 in the bar, it's a rough and tumble bar. There is a bit of a fight goes on in the background. It's not detailed, it's just you get told. Right? The primary part of chapter 1 is to let you know this is the layout of cases. This is the atmosphere you're dealing with. But chapter 2 is when all heck breaks loose. And Jeremiah gets into a fight. Okay, very detailed. Now, like I said, Jeremiah is the guy that will talk his way out of whatever he can, but sometimes it doesn't work out that well. Okay. So Jeremiah does have his strengths. He does have his weaknesses. When he meets Wilhelm comes from a very different cut altogether. Okay. Like, Wilhelm has his own past, but it's very different from Jeremiah's. But because of the way that they meet up, and you do find out somewhere along the line, you do find out how Jeremiah and Wilhelm actually get together, why they connect like they do. Okay. You'll find out that there's a lot of hinting going on. Jeremiah is talked to by a number of people, and not everybody calls him Jeremiah. Same as in my world, not everybody calls me Keith. Okay. Some people know me as Ronald, which is my actual first name. Okay. That's why I've got the R, Keith. Okay. Now, there's a whole other long story that is involved in that particular side of it. But Jeremiah's got a very well-developed personality. He is the one that he will talk his way out of whatever. But if he has to, Jeremiah becomes very much a leader. Okay. Rest assured, that is not the role that I play in my world. Okay. In my life, I usually bite my tongue. Well, try to. But I like the way it was put on a t-shirt one day. You know that funny little mechanism in most people that says, "Oh, I probably shouldn't say that"? Well, I don't have one of those. So what usually ends up happening is I think something, it comes out, and I go, "Oops, probably should have said that differently." So Jeremiah he's got his own little outlook. When you meet Wilhelm packs around a nice little weapon. Okay. He packs around a DRS-50 sniper's rifle. And yes, as it sounds, the man knows what he's doing with it. Okay. And then you come up with, when you meet Tanya, little high strung. Okay. Definitely a little quick on the trigger sometimes. But she is very much a down to earth. She's not military. She's not military trained. Okay. Jeremiah is military trained. Granted, only a couple of years. And then he went, no, I don't like the policies. And as with me, okay, I have always been very supportive of people that join the military to protect their country, to protect their homes. I've always been very supportive of them. I've also always questioned a lot of the policies that the people making the rules come up with. Okay. Now, did I ever join the military? No. My father and all of my uncles did. But I myself never got into the military. Something about epileptics and automatic weapons, which is an intriguing problem, considering I know people that are literally licensed by or were licensed by the government as demolition specialists that are in far worse emotional control than an epileptic. But hey, who am I to judge? So, Jeremiah definitely he's got military training. Wilhelm does not. Wilhelm worked in a different side of the law altogether. Tanya, when you meet her, you'll find she is very much a hillbilly in a lot of ways. Like, she knows the woods. She does know how to handle herself. Bit temperamental, but that's okay. Right after you meet Tanya, you'll meet the grandfather. Okay, that being Ozzy. And you'll find out he's got all sorts of neat things about him, but he's a senior in the group. Okay. And then, of course, you end up meeting Blade. Okay. And, Blade, now understand, when Blade was built, this was some 15 years before the movie came out. And no, just for your edification, Blade is not a vampire. I don't think, anyway. And yeah, I did say I don't think, because quite honestly, I haven't entirely worked out everything about everybody. Some of it's still being written as I go along. Okay. And that is one of the tangles in the Chronicles, is because there's all this back information coming up. You'll have to read through it to find out what it is. Okay, but they form together. These 5 people end up at the table, making a connection. And much as they're planning on one thing, it never goes the way, as you know, as gamers go, you guys are already fully aware that you may head out in one direction. Okay, but you never get to where you're heading to start with. So this small group of 5 people, manage to get to know each other. They are already tested by, trial by fire, as it were, or in this case, by combat. Okay, they get a connection with each other and decide to stick together, because the reality is, as with the real world, no individual is an island unto themselves. So they mesh together, they find a group of people, and they find each other, and decide to make a go of it. And together they start building things. Okay, once this group is connected, then things start to happen. Okay, but because I keep these to a minute, I do my best to keep these videos to the half-hour mark. The reality is, the message I came to bring forward, okay, to the peoples in existence, that working together we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. That same message is also carried through the Yldrbacian Chronicles, where this group of rough and tumble, very different individuals with their own colorful paths decide to work together for a common good to unite a whole situation, to unite the planet. Okay, to deal with a past situation that they've got to deal with, that has to be dealt with. Okay, understand, mankind right now is going down a very complicated path. Okay, and that complicated path is going to lead to either people working together, or it's going to drive us right back into the Stone Age again. The choice is yours. Okay, and this is the same choice that the wolf pack ends up dealing with. We can either work together, and we can back each other up. Okay, and you'll watch different relationships connect. Different interactions happen, likes, dislikes, that sort of thing. It's done from my standpoint. It really is a combination of the story itself and a tribute to the group of people that showed me how it all works. How to actually socialize, how to get along with people. Okay, I didn't really do well on the get along with people. This is one of the reasons why I became very reclusive. Okay, now there are characters that are coming in. I pull people out of my past that I've run into, because it's a little hard to pull the people out of the future that I haven't run into yet. Although the one person I will absolutely tell you, when you get to meet Casey is not based on any individual that I personally know. At least not deliberately. Okay. Casey is one of these few characters that literally is a construct for the game. That didn't have a connection. Okay. It was simply a case of get the right atmosphere. Now, of course, Casey's taking out of the equation the name of the place and the layout, but the atmosphere of Casey's was very much based on the bar that I spent a lot of time in, and the people that I got to meet in there. Okay. Now, with this in mind, I'm going to bring this to a close, and when I come back, we will continue this discussion and other ones. But until then, I'll be back again tomorrow at some point. So if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. And, don't forget to hit the alert button to let yourself know when the next one comes out, because I will be back tomorrow. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.